Hey everyone, we all know sugar makes food sweet, but did you know it also makes food brown, flavorful, smell amazing, and even crispy? This happens through something called the Maillard reaction, a fancy name for one of the most important things that happen when you cook. Whether you are baking cookies, searing steak, or just toasting bread, this reaction is going on. So in this video, we break it all down in simple terms, and I show you how it works right in your kitchen. The Maillard reaction is a chemical reaction between amino acids, the building block of protein, and reducing sugar like glucose. This reaction doesn't need enzyme and starts to happen when food is heated, especially around 140 to 165 Celsius or 284 to 329.
The first thing to know is it's not actually a reaction. It's a giant, messy domino effect of lots and lots of reactions. So messy that the exact details are still kind of a black box. But basically, it starts with what's called a reducing sugar. Note that these are not the giant molecules we usually think of as sugars. They're simpler, more reactive sugars found in all living things. Anyway, the reaction kicks off when a specific piece of one of these sugars reacts with a specific piece of an amino acid, the building blocks of proteins. The product rearranges and breaks down into smaller molecules, which start reacting with each other and forming all sorts of different products, which start reacting with each other and forming all sorts of different products, which start reacting with each other and you get it. Eventually, you end up with hundreds of different compounds. Some are giant ring-like molecules that, for complicated chemistry reasons, reflect light in a way that makes food look brown. That's where the golden brown comes from. Others are small, super volatile molecules that create complex flavors and aromas. That's where the delicious comes.
You will see the Maillard reaction in action anytime you cook something dry and hot, like baking, roasting, frying, or grilling. Not in boiling, water doesn't get hot enough. That's why boiled meat looks great, but grilled meat gets that nice sear crust. The reaction usually starts at around 140 Celsius.
Second thought, let's get back to the much tastier chemistry that happens in the kitchen, because you can actually hack it for even more tastiness. See, there are two conditions that matter most for the Maillard reaction. The first is heat. The reaction can and does happen at room temperature. That's one part of how aged balsamic vinegar, black garlic, and serrano ham get their color and complexity. But it takes months or even years. The higher the temperature, the faster that delicious domino effect happens. That's why we're most familiar with the GBD of foods cooked at high temps, like bread, cookies, roasted coffee beans, French fries, grilled meat, grilled veggies, grilled almost anything, really. So if you want more Maillard, the easiest thing to do is turn up the heat. temperature really matters when you're cooking something wet, like meat. Because even if you're cooking at a hot enough temperature for the reaction to occur, the moisture on a food's surface can keep it from getting hot enough to undergo that delicious domino effect before the food overcooks. By drying the surface, you can reach those higher temps way more quickly. So pat proteins dry before popping them in the pan. And leave cut veggies in the fridge to dehydrate for a few hours before roasting them. And mind how you use salt. Either add it just before cooking or far enough in advance so the moisture it draws out has time to get drawn back into the food.
Sugar is what gets the Maillard reaction going, but not just any sugar. We need what's called a reducing sugar, like glucose, fructose, or lactose. These sugars have a certain chemical structure that allows them to bond with amino acids.
One of the most obvious effects in Maillard reaction is browning, the beautiful golden or brown color we see when food is cooked. This browning happens when sugar reacts with amino acid under the heat. The brown pigments that are formed are called melanite. They are not only attractive, they actually add flavor too, like in toasted bread or grilled meat. Let's look at a simple example. When baked two cookies, one with sugar and one without sugar, the cookies with sugar turns golden brown, but the one without sugar stay pale. Why? Because the Maillard reaction cannot work properly without sugar. So sugar is not just for sweetness, it helps build color and deepen flavor in cooking and baking.
Maillard reactions result when proteins and sugars break down and rearrange themselves, forming ring-like structures, which reflect light in a way that gives foods like Thanksgiving turkey and hamburgers their distinctive, rich brown color. As this reaction occurs, it produces a range of flavor and aroma compounds, which also react with each other, forming even more complex tastes and smells.
Not all sugar behaves the same in cooking. Only reducing sugar can trigger the Maillard reaction, that special process that causes browning and adds flavor. Example of reducing sugars: glucose in fruits and corn syrup, fructose in honey, lactose in meat. Brown sugar also helps browning because it contains molasses. Meanwhile, white sugar, sucrose, does not react easily. It needs to break down first. It can take part in browning.
Here we start with adding oil after reheat pan. As you guys can see, he's using canola oil, which has a high smoke point. Smoke point is basically the point at which the oil starts to smoke. Anything with a high smoke point doesn't burn too quickly because it holds the heat, and that makes it a great oil for searing. You can see he seasoned fairly high up because you want the salt to disperse really well. Season the meat before you cook is important because the salt draws out the moisture from the meat, and that will impede us from searing well.
Before we flip it. So it's been a few minutes here. I'm just going to take a look. And if you look at that, we're getting some nice browning. I'm going to leave it on this side for another minute and a half, and then we'll give it a turn. For the most part, what I'm watching for is that this oil is not burning and smoking up the room. You need to watch the pan and adjust the heat. A cast iron pan takes a long time to heat up and cool down. If you feel like it's not hot enough, go up in measures. If you crank it and it gets too hot, it's going to take an equal amount of time to cool down. We're ready to go here. I can give it a good turn, and look at that. The culinary term for browning is the Maillard reaction. And you can see right here, the proteins, the sugars in the meat, and the salt and pepper have browned to give us a nice golden brown crust. And that's what we want. That is flavor. Now that I flip my meat over, I'm gonna wait for the other side to get brown. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold it up on its side. I wanna make sure that that fat gets nice and crispy as well.